Ackley Hammer Steel Performance. All right, so at the request of the masses, we did it. We did the intake comparison for a Victory steel frame. On this particular one, we did a 2013 Victory Judd, my wife's motorcycle. And what we'd been asked to do is more mainstream builds. Particularly was, hey, well, how do these intakes compare? How do intakes compare on something without camshafts? Which probably is most of the Victory motorcycles out there don't have camshafts. So what is an exhaust, a tuner, and what do the various intakes do and how they perform on that combination? So that's what we did. I was the goal was to get done in 2 days. I was able to get it all done in 1 day, long day, 96 degrees here in Texas, real feel of 109, but it was all good. Everything went real smooth. I had forgotten how much easier it is to do intake changes and stuff on the newer model steel frame is compared to the V92. So yeah, everything went real good. So no issues there. It also, these are all wide open throttle pulls. I didn't do any testing at part throttle. I ran the intake, made a couple fuel corrections to get the air-fuel ratio somewhere between 12.7 and 13.2. Anywhere in there, they're not going to make a power difference at all. So measurable. So with that being said, did a real quick tune, set timing on it, and then pull. So that's what we have. All right. So the 3 intakes we did was the Lloyd torque tubes, 3rd Gear Customs, and the Arlen Ness intake. So with that being said, we're going to do a quick wrap up on each intake. So first intake we're going to talk about is the Lloyd torque tubes. So these are what Lloyd torque tube look like. If you haven't seen the last video, if you've never seen them before, these are Lloyd torque tubes. Now these here are 07s. These are used ones here. The 08s are on the bike. So that was the last intake I tested, and I just left them on the bike. So that's what you have. So all steel construction on the 08s. You've got a different bolt pattern, and also the throttle opening is 45 millimeter versus 44 millimeter. These are powder coated. Again, these are all beat up, but if you've seen the last video, you know that they come to you all shiny and powder coated. Again, all steel construction. Nice radius here, and that's the Lloyd torque tubes. The next intake is my assistant is handing me intakes, is my granddaughter, is the Arlen Ness. So I've never messed one of these. In fact, if I recalled, I thought the back of this thing was all black. It was molded black. The base of it was rubber, and it had a little raised step. It had a raised step all around where the intake bolted on. And so with that being said, I don't know if they did a redesign, or I have a really bad memory, or if it went for something else. But anyways, this is what I bought off of eBay for, I don't know, $210 or whatever it was on there. But again, it doesn't come apart. You can wash the filter on it. It doesn't come apart. It has a steel backing, so it doesn't have the flexing that I recalled hearing about on the other ones. But anyways, with that being said, this is it. It does have a nice smooth radius inlet, much like you would see on the S&S intakes. And there you go. That's it. The next intake is my assistant, please. I'm going to have to get you an acting role. Good job, Addie. So this is the 3rd Gear Customs. All right, so this particular intake here, when Alan was having them forged or casted, the manufacturer made a mistake, and they drilled it for an 08 bolt pattern and bolt size. However, they drilled it for a pre-08, so this is was a 44 versus a 45 millimeter. And it also has, for the 08 up, it has a machine groove here for the O-rings. Now, what I didn't talk about last time on this intake, and I want to talk about now, is this intake does provide you, in my opinion, the home builder, right? Or the guy that experiments, or if you're building a high-end race piece, then you can do a couple things that you can't do with the other intakes, or it's not as easy to do. This being all aluminum, all cast, I very easily ground this out to 45 millimeter. I could grind this out to 50 millimeter. I could take out to, probably might have enough room in here to go 54 millimeter. Not to say you would want to, but you could. I could also, if I wanted to, I could cut the tube off of it, make any kind of modifications inside of here. If I want to put a divider plate to increase some low-end torque like you would see on cross-country intake manifold, I could do something like that. And then pay someone to weld it back on for 100, 150 bucks. They would weld that aluminum back together again, because I can't do that. But I could pay someone to do that. I could make any modifications I want. And it's a lot easier. You know, the Lloyd torque tubes are great, but I'm somewhat limited to the thickness of the metal and the tube design if I wanted to make it bigger. Now again, not saying anyone would want to, or there's any benefit to doing that. I just wanted to sort of make that point that the Third Gear Customs, being it's all aluminum construction, does provide you on there. And if you look in here, I've done some extensive grinding on this, and radial files and sandpaper rolls, and to basically I turn this into a smooth bell mouth like this intake has on the inside. I did that to this aluminum one here. So anyways, there you go. That's what you have. All right, we're going to transition on to the graphs. Okay, here we have the nest from up top with the tank off. The tank's also off here, but here's what it looks like from underneath. We do the same thing with the Third Gear Customs, the top view of it with the tank off. And then there's what it looks like with the tank on. And then here is coming up the Lloyd torque tubes, tank off. And then here it is with the tank on. So that gives you a little bit of perspective on each one, how they look. Okay, real quick. All the runs were done in fourth gear. That allowed the Rev Center to work and be able to turn to 6,000 RPMs. If I did it in fifth gear, it would be limited to 5,000 RPM. So all runs were done in fourth gear. Okay. Anyways, I think this is why everyone actually dialed into the video, was to get a good comparison on these three intakes. So again, just to do a quick recap, this is a 2013 Victory Judge 106 Bassani Pro Street exhaust, Power Commander 5, no timing wheel on it. Again, we ran each intake. Got a baseline 2 on there that made it good repeatable power, and then we did our comparison. And what you'll see here is that you start seeing a little divergence at 2,500. You start seeing the Lloyd torque tubes start separating a little bit there by 3,000 RPMs. And then the Lloyd torque tubes carry the most torque. And then you start seeing a convergence again with the Third Gear Customs at about 4,500. And then they sort of stay about together, and then you see the Lloyd torque tubes start dropping off beyond peak horsepower, and that's just the nature of the long tube runner, in combination with a very short duration, intake duration, stock camshaft. So that's just the nature of the beast. Third Gear Customs is down a little bit of torque in the mid-range to compare to the Lloyds, but again, by 4,500, it's caught back up, and it runs basically they run together throughout. And then again, the Ness intake, which is very similar from a characteristic standpoint of the S&S, is down on torque. And again, peak horsepower is about up the same with the other intakes, but is just down on power. And that's what we see with our very short no runner intakes, where air is forced to make a turn. But there you go. So that's what you have. Not a whole lot different than the intake the show we did from the very beginning. Even though the bikes made a woefully more power, we see similar characteristics. Torque tubes make more torque. Short runner flat intakes, S&S, the RLNS, those type of ones are way down on torque, and as you make more horsepower, they're further down, and they all make about the same peak horsepower. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so yeah, just recapping one more time. I'm using the webcam off my video. By this point, no one watches anymore. So I've watched the trends on the videos, and most people watch with the first 2 minutes. They move to the dyno graphs. they watch the dynographs and then come down here. So I could probably just talk out of a can, and no one would actually notice. There's probably 3 people who watched the tail end of the video, which is a shame, because this is where we sort of get, we just sort of have open mic thoughts. But yeah, so again, no real surprises at all on the intake comparison. I think this gives you guys a good idea. I don't think there'd be any difference. So if you're in a different exhaust, your power numbers will be different. Your power numbers will be different slightly. However, the trends on the intake will not change. I think that's just that's what I would say is a general rule. And at this power level, again, whether you throw a set of RPWs or something like that, you're not going to see a whole lot of change, just because the engine is not moving enough air. That camshaft is so small, the stock camshaft is so small that it just doesn't have the volume of air. So with that being said, this is a good combination. Whether you have a Power Commander 5 or a Maximus, Power Vision CX are still floating around there a little bit. I got 3 of them on the shelf that I bought just in case. So anyways, what I mean by that is that whatever your tuning tool you have or you use is not going to make a wild difference on the intakes that you pick. So there you go. That's what you have it. I'm not sure what we got coming up next on video, so I'm waiting for any feedback that you all have on what else you'd like to see. Again, this is the same bike that we are going to do a camshaft comparison. I've actually had I sold 2 of the cams I had for the bike that people ordered, and they were out of cams. I had them on stock, so the 413s were out, and I sold mine. And so with that being said, I got to replenish my my camshaft stockage. So okay, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care.